Appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Excellent. We got to wake up a little bit. I know the time is going, but I just want to give a big round of applause to John, everyone. John, thank you again for everything that you've done. Really, it's really a pleasure to be here in Cape Town and to see everyone here together, familiar faces, new faces, being able to connect together. And I think my session is going to kind of focus on what's happening in the region as of what has happened, what's happening today, and what we're looking towards in the future. First of all, I just want to get a feeling for the room. So how many airlines do we have in this room today? So just raise your hand if you're an airline. Okay, excellent. I guess these are the ones that are going to get wined and dined tonight, so fantastic. And airports, just put your hands up. Excellent, so we have a good feel of some airports. Suppliers, excellent. And consultants, lovely. So we have a good round and a good feel. So I think that's great to know, and I think everybody can now see who's all in the room and the opportunity we have to connect after these sessions. So today, I'm going to just walk us through a few things of the industry. And I was actually telling John and some other colleagues, this is the perfect timing to address this presentation, given the fact that the IATA AGM just finished. So a lot of the numbers that you'll see is the results of what's happening in the industry, what's happening in Africa, and some of the trends that are happening. So first question, are we better or are we worse? Secondly, what trends should we be focusing on? And this relates not just to airlines, but airports, suppliers as well. And then what are the important things to capitalize on here in Africa, which some of those we've already mentioned in the previous sessions. So in the industry today, from the latest figures from IATA, the profitability is still trending very well. So slightly below from year over year last year, but we're looking at a forecast for 2018 at about 38.4 million. Actually, that should be billion, I think. Apologies. Traffic should be going up at about 7%, capacity up 6.7, and then a projected load factor of about 80%. So overall, for the industry, we should be doing well. We should be forecasting in a good limelight. And as you see, the last 4 years have consecutively been profitable for airlines globally. Now, what about Africa? I think we know the answer, right? It's on the next slide. So fortunately, we're still operating at a loss, and it's a continued loss. However, it's not so bad. I think we've been trending from the periods before. So if you look in 2013, where it was really terrible, we've tended to try to focus in a better direction to get to where we are. Year over year, it's stayed around the same, but as you see that it's still getting very challenging, and I think it's important to call this out in front of everyone that we still have a lot of challenges to be able to drive profitability for the airlines and for the industry overall. But what's happening in the region? So I think there's some good out of this story. So first, there was over 70 new routes in Africa alone. It's very impressive. I think we don't realize the amount of development and capacity that's actually coming into Africa, outside of Africa, intra-Africa. So you have about 30 of those new routes intra-Africa, which is impressive. So we've talked about Rwanda Air, Kigali to Cape Town. We've also mentioned some of the developments with Airlink from Cape Town as well. But also the intra-Africa connectivity. So as we mentioned, we've had a bunch of circuitous routes trying to get from one point of Africa to another, as we mentioned, going through Paris, for example. Well, connectivity intra-Africa has actually improved by 5 percentage points. And I think that's really great to see that it's trending in a very good direction, which is helping the connectivity issue. And then for international airlines in the region, so we have a lot of international airlines that operate in Cape Town, Joburg, and all over Africa. These are some of the airlines that have added new routes and contributed to the new route development in the region as well. And I think from the African perspective, if you're an airline, this is great because you can perhaps continue trying to explore partnership opportunities with some of these airlines, connecting some of these destinations in Africa to the world and beyond. In terms of the growth, so these are the top 10 airports year over year that have grown in terms of passenger traffic. So Kigali has grown almost double, and I think it's a testament towards the airline that's based there, Rwanda Air. They've grown significantly here in the continent. Lilongwe, Conakry, as well as Kanu, Ouagadougou, and Kinshasa. There's a laundry list of others, but obviously some of these are smaller bases, but yet I think it's important to call out that they contribute towards the growth of traffic here in the region. And then when we look at the top airports that tend to have the largest traffic, I think it's obvious that Joburg and Cape Town, as well as Durban, tend to still fall into the large categories. However, North Africa continues to be of big importance. North Africa contributes to almost 50% of the top traffic in Africa, so it's quite significant. So what's trending in terms of on a more holistic view? So first, right-sizing, and we'll talk about a case with one of our customers at Embraer, IT and infrastructure development, as well as collaboration. So with right-sizing, I think we know that here in Africa, and this is the latest stats, about 95% of flights operate with less than 150 passengers a day, and that's intra-Africa traffic. So what does that mean? That means that 61% of those flights are served with less than a daily flight, which is important for airlines to make sure that they have the right size aircraft, the right capacity at the right time. Also, as we know, it's very challenging here in the continent, so a lot of markets seem to be a bit too long for the turboprops, but then, of course, too thin for the narrow bodies. So where's the medium happens to be in those regional aircraft markets. That's why there's, I think, another trend is you're seeing the right sizing of more regional aircraft being placed and allocated here in the region so we can start new routes and kind of penetrate into more niche markets across the region. FastJet's one of our customers, so here's a case that I think we all know that happened last year. They decided to follow the approach of right sizing. In Tanzania, they decided to right-size to some E190s, and then in Zimbabwe, they decided to right-size to smaller ERJs. And this has driven some very positive results to their revenue and to their commercial and to their profitability. So we're talking about a 65% increase in their revenue. The RASK, which is a revenue across all their seat kilometers, that's increased by 93%. I think this is a testament showing that the right-sizing concept in this state seems to be working, and other airlines will soon to be following suit. SATM, very, very important as we know, and it's a big topic I know that we'll discuss. I promised to my colleagues I would only mention SATM and Yamoussoukro once, so here you go. But I think it's very important to call out because as we talk about route development and as we talk about going into expansion of new routes, what will happen if SATM actually gets implemented? Do the airlines have a plan for this? Do the airports have a plan for this to be able to sustain such amount of potentially capacity increases or potentially more competition amongst the airlines? So I think it's important for us to always remember that this is coming. IATA and the other stakeholders have done a great job implementing this. So we just need to be prepared, all of us in this room, to be able to understand SATM and how to make sure it's successful across the continent. And IT and infrastructure. So I think we're seeing a big trend in Africa in terms of IT investment, revenue management systems, network planning optimization. Airlines across the globe are getting smarter, but airlines in Africa are definitely getting smarter as well. You see Ethiopia investing millions of dollars in their revenue management system to be able to do real-time revenue management systems, so being able to sell the right price at pretty much any given time, okay? Data. I know we all talk about data and the importance of it. I think data is getting better as we continue to share data amongst colleagues and so forth. And also NDC. Big thing coming, and I think here in Africa, we're starting to get prepared, but in the next year, we'll definitely be ramping up, understanding more about the NDC level 1, level 2, number 3, and level 3, and how can we prepare for that. In terms of airport infrastructure, some really great developments. So we see that the new Dakar airport is up and running. The new airport in Kigali seems to be running very smooth in terms of the groundbreaking, and I've heard that it's probably going to be actually completed ahead of schedule, which is fantastic. The new terminals in Dar es Salaam and Zanzibar. I think we also mentioned Lusaka. So there's a lot of infrastructure development happening here in the region. And lastly, collaboration. So I think the last 12 months, we've seen a lot of interesting collaboration amongst airlines, amongst airports, amongst the different conglomerates and amongst the stakeholders. So Air Australia and Air Madagascar, they've announced their formalized partnership. Ethiopian Airlines, they continue to expand their portfolio and their footprint across Africa. The recent announcements with South African Airways and Kenya Airways and Air Mauritius, trying to find some synergies amongst those airlines. Air France and Air Côte d'Ivoire, and also I think we have to give some good recognition to Cape Town Air Access and what they've done. I think that is a wonderful example and framework of route service development and probably how others across the globe should be doing it as well. So to answer those questions, are we better or worse? I think we're better, but I think that profitability obviously continues to remain a challenge, and we all have to come together to be able to find how to mitigate that. The trends, right-sizing, IT investment, airport infrastructure, as well as collaboration. These are the themes that we're going to see over the next 12 months, and we all need to be able to understand those themes to be able to move the needle a little bit. And lastly, collaboration, and looking at important opportunities to capitalize on underserved markets, growing airlines, airports that have unique opportunities, and as well as the stakeholders finding solutions for not just the airlines, but for the industry overall. That's it.